crystal ball. It's underneath Walter's work on that, he calls it crystallography. And in fact, this is exactly the method that I used to discover 40 new novel geometric forms. Because when you look at that mess of lines, it just looks like a mess of lines. As soon as you can actually see and perceive a tetrahedron, then you can bold that. Because it's all there. Every possible shape in the universe is right in there. Then you could go to a cube. Okay, I'm going to see a cube, but I'm not just going to look at that version of the cube. I'm going to look at 20 different versions of the cube. I'm now going to look at a pentagon. Okay, pentagon's easy to find inside there. And I'm going to start looking at more advanced forms like a cuboctahedron. Or I'm going to look at some of the Archimedean solids, a rhomboid cuboctahedron. Every possible shape of the Archimedean solids, of the Catalan solids, everything is all in this one circle. Every possible shape. So when you consider that every possible shape is in this one circle, who created this system? Did it all just appear on its own? Metatron's cube gives us every regular shape that exists in the universe, without exception. So when I go to discover new things, I'm just taking Metatron's cube, which is 6-point perspective, and I'm not talking only in lower dimensional, I'm talking even all the higher dimensional perspectives are all inside the 24-point perspective. Every possible shape that exists in the universe is in this one template. Then you start to think, okay, who made this? And the answer is, you did. It's very easy for us to look at the world around us and to say, the world is divine. We can see it in the majesty of mountains. We can see it in the beauty of ocean vistas. We can see it all around us in the incredible resilience of animals that live in desert environments. We can experience all of it. But until we actually can experience it on our own and see what's happening in this world around us, we might miss the cues. Maybe there should be 3 types of people. People that believe in miracles, people that don't believe in miracles, and those others that believe that life itself is the miracle. That seeing truly is believing. And then you can actually start getting to this new realm, this new way of thinking, a new earth that allows us to open our hearts even more. That we realize that the most difficult things in life are actually the thing that brings us to the next level of our soul evolution. That judgment is actually the foundational basis of suffering. But that suffering itself is the foundational basis of enlightenment. In this context, every single thing that's bad that happens to us can become the greatest thing that ever happened to us. It's all in how we reframe it in our own minds. And I'll end on this one thing. So the square root of 2 is 1.4142. Infinite. Right? The square root of 3 is 1.73205. Also infinite. Now, the square root of 2 is duality. We separate a circle, cut it in half. You can have one side of it have darkness, the other side has light. Okay, so we've got light, and then you got dark over here. Make sense? Sun and moon. Be another way of looking at this. Male and female. But then when we look at this, we say, what is the square root of 2 plus the square root of 3? Now when we think of the number 2, we think of duality, right? But when we think of duality, the number 2 is a compression for the square root of 2. You see what I'm saying? The square root of 2 is an infinite number that can recreate itself just by squaring itself. So the number 2 becomes a compression of an infinite number that every conversation that's ever existed and ever will yet exist is inside somewhere in this non-repeating string. There's no period inside this. And when we think of this, if we think of duality for the number 2, what do we think of for the number 3? What do you think of when you hear the number 3? Trinity, right? Trinity. So we have a triangle, and so we have Trinity. And what do we think of when we think of Trinity? Kind of divine, right?
Right.
Divinity. Okay. So if we add the square root of 2 plus the square root of 3, it equals 3.146.
Wow.
That's really close to pi, isn't
That's
it?
my license plate.
It's really close to pi. Fascinating. 3.146. Okay, so let's do this. Let's just see how much of the circle. So we think of duality, we think of scarcity, we think of suffering, we think of difficulty in life. We think of all the scarcity aspects that we have, whether it's like fuel or energy or love. We think of scarcity. We think of suffering. We think of the square root of 2. So the square root of 2 all by itself, without any context, of 1.4142 is the diminished fifth in music. The diminished fifth is the worst sound of music. It's the devil's tritone. Dun, 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 dun. Like even the dogs bark, you know.
Star Wars.
It's Star Wars. It's Darth Vader, right, coming into the room.
Yeah.
So the diminished fifth is the square root of 2. And it's exactly that. So a diminished fifth is the square root of 2 multiplied by a unison note. That's what it is. And the square root of 3, so if we redid this and had a look to see what happens, and let's see how much of this circle, actually now, if we're going to take the square root of 2, so the square root of 2, we're going to make it into a circle, and that is going to be root 2, which is 1.4142, and then we're going to finish the circle right here, which is all of it going to be approximately pi. And then the square root of 3 is right here. Now, where does the square root of 2 component end? What degree would it be? So let's say this is 0 degrees at 360 degrees. What does this number come out to? So the way you derive this, you just take basically 1.4142 plus this equals 3.146, and then you're going to take 1.4142 divided by 3.146 to give us the percent, and then multiply that by degrees, 360. Make sense? Simple. Guess what this number comes out to? 161.816 degrees. Who recognizes 1618? Is that the golden ratio? In fact, it's not only the golden ratio, but it has within it the reciprocal of the golden ratio. I just told you the 3 numbers that do this. So you can try this on your calculator. 618 is 1 over 1.618. It's the only number that does that. So wait. And this kind of looks like the symbol, right? Who could recognize that? What's that look like? It's an alchemical symbol. Anyone know? Saturn. What's the metal for Saturn? Lead. So hang on a minute. The square root of 2, suffering, difficulty, challenge, life sucks, separation, is equal, diminished fifth, is lead, when viewed without the context of the divine path, the hero's journey. When we add it to the divine trinity, then it becomes golden. Lead turns to gold.
Wow. Wow.
Every experience that we have that's the worst experience ever can be the most divine. The way we ascend is by allowing our heart to be broken, by being absolutely authentic, and transmuting those negative, difficult experiences into the most beautiful thing that we've ever experienced. Falling in love with the journey. Earth is not an escape room that is intended to be escaped. The only way we'll ever transcend beyond this plane of duality and difficulty and challenge and suffering is by falling in love with it just as it is. My favorite quote is by William Ernest Henley, actually is immortalized in a film as well that was called Invictus, which means unconquerable. And it's a story of Nelson Mandela, who spends 27 years in a prison as a political prisoner. And the only thing that he has to inspire him every day as he's there as a political prisoner is to chip stone. And he had one piece of paper in his pocket which had this poem's words written on it. Out of the night that covers me, black as the pit from pole to pole, I thank whatever gods may be for my unconquerable soul. In the fell clutch of circumstance, I have not winced nor cried aloud. Under the bludgeonings of chance, my head is bloody yet unbowed. Beyond this place of wrath and tears looms but the horror of the shade. And yet the menace of the years finds and shall find me unafraid. It matters not how strait the gate, how charged with punishments the scroll. I am the master of my fate. I'm the captain of my soul. Every experience that we are experiencing here is divine. It's simply up to us to see it for what it is. Instead of asking, why did something happen to me? Ask yourself, why did I choose this? What was I intending to learn by experiencing this? Very painful lessons sometimes. And how do I very rapidly reframe it to the very best thing that ever happened to me? If you do this, then you'll start to experience the love of life. Every day will be the miracle. Your life becomes the miracle. Thank you very much.
Wow.